Well, hello, and welcome to another episode. Whether you're viewing it on the Fractured Brain channel or on the Jimmy P. Brown channel, either way, thanks for joining, and I appreciate you tuning in. You want to hit like and subscribe, I don't care. Just do whatever you want, because I'm tired of bugging people to do it, and some people do, and some people don't, and it is what it is. All right, so as I take a drink of this magnificent coffee, brought to me by Summer Moon Coffee out of Austin, Texas. The Inferno. I'm telling you, you want good French roast, go to Summer Moon. It's good stuff. If you live there, you know. And if you live there and you don't know, well, go. Okay. And if you don't live there, you can order some. It's really good coffee. All right. So, it's been a while, obviously, and you know, I every time I do one of these videos, I always make a commitment. Oh, okay, I'm really gonna do my best, and I'll hopefully see you next week. And then 3 months pass by. I've just had I've been too busy with writing, recording, producing, and working on stuff, and quite honestly, sometimes I just don't feel like I have anything worth talking about that people haven't already heard. It's funny. I was introduced the other day as a fellow. I was being introduced to another content creator on YouTube, and I was told, "Oh, yeah, I was introduced as a content creator," and it's like, no, I'm not. But I get it. I understand. I'm tiny little speck on the YouTube platform. So if people want to see me as that, cool. But I don't see me as that. So there it is. There it be. There it was. Okay. So I definitely wanted to log on today and talk about some gear, talk about music production and stuff like that, because I've actually received quite a bit of inquiry, and that was the whole purpose of my starting a YouTube channel years and years ago, back in like 2015, 2016, was to answer emails, because I get so many emails that are kind of generalized, all categorized in those same areas. It's good coffee. So I decided, that's one of the reasons I want to return back to this. The questions and stuff slowed down. So I just, like I said, I just really, finding subject matter that interests me. I think to myself, well, I doubt it's going to interest anybody else, so, and also knowing the sensitivity of some of my audience, it makes it a little more difficult for me to broach certain subjects. So, and that's something I'll have to learn to get over and just say screw it and talk about whatever I feel like talking about. And then I also reached out to quite a few people about, people that have been really great on YouTube that I wanted to interview. And, either they ghost me. I guess that's a nice way of saying just ignoring me. After the requests go through, they're very talkative and very cool and want to FaceTime and all this other stuff. And then when you ask them for that favor, hey, will you do I won't mention their names, you'd recognize them, but hey, would you do an interview with me on my podcast or on my YouTube channels? And silence, crickets, not even crickets, just dead silence. I mean, it's just like, okay. So I just, and one guy actually, I actually appreciated that he finally told me no. And I asked why during a FaceTime with him. He's a big personality, has over 180,000 subscribers, and he just told me, you don't have enough subscribers. And I kind of feel like you're using me to help, build up your platform. And it's like, well, that's what we do. We all help one another, I mean, somebody had to help you, but at the same token, he puts out a lot of content and everything, but I respected the fact that at least he told me, So that's cool. So let's get to the questions. As you guys well know, I'm very long-winded and love to love to talk. So let's try to keep this as because I'm not a Lex Friedman or anything like that. Who's by the way, if you do love long form content and you're willing to sit for 2-3 hours and listen to podcast or break it up, listen to like 45 minutes and then come back the next day and listen to another 45. Lex is awesome. He always has interesting guests and different perspectives. He's a super cool guy. And actually, I never reached out to him. It'd be kind of nice though. All right. So, let's see here. So let's get to the first grouping of questions. And so, Jimmy, these are kind of a bunch of the same type of questions. So I'm going to put them all in together. So we're going to lump this into the gear segment. So it says right here, what is the difference between the foreign guitars and American guitars? I see Fender, that they're made in Mexico, Indonesia, China, same with Gibson with their Epiphone line and many other brands. What is the difference? Because there's obviously a huge cost difference, but is there truly a quality difference? Okay, loaded question. Here's the thing. Years and years and years ago, there might have been an absolute zero, no question, Buy American, better stuff. And better quality, better builds, better playability, better wood. And that's all understandable. There, however, in the 70s, there were two companies that came out and disproved all of that. One of them was a company called Ibanez, and Ibanez came out and started making Les Paul copies and Explorer copies, and that were destroying Gibson at the time, and that were just really solid quality guitars, and it kind of got Gibson on their hind feet. Now, number one, should they have been copying? No, I mean, that's where I tend to, agree with the lawsuits and everything else, because, I mean, that is their proprietary designs and whatnot. But what prompted it wasn't so much the copying as that they were making better product. The same thing happened with a little unknown company called Takamine here in the States. They're not from the States, they're from overseas, but they started making Martin copies that were actually quite really good and that sounded wonderful and using good solid woods. So Martin went after them. And but them, I understand. I mean, they were even writing their name like Martin, the logo and everything. And it's the same with Ibanez. Ibanez was kind of, even though it was their name, they were using, Gibson's logo and whatnot. So, or style, logo style. I mean, there were some change-ups here and there, like headstock design and all that other stuff. But nonetheless, it was still copies, And then even American companies were ripping off. I have a Guild that's pretty much an SG copy, and now I have not played a Gibson SG from the 70s era, so I don't know how to compare that with my 1970s, early 70s Guild that was gifted to me. But I'll tell you, the Guild smashes some current SG models. So, it just depends. So now later on, and then Fender, of course, had their fight with Fender Japan, because Fender Japan just, that's an interesting story and it's a little long to get into. But Fender Japan started putting out stuff that was on par, if not better. That when that stuff starts happening, Like I said, the American companies get on their hind legs. But, the good thing is that it challenges and forces them to start making better product. Because, there's always slopes, and that's just the way it happens sometimes. Then it went back to American companies were making the better guitars, and overseas stuff was crap, and, inferior woods, inferior electronics. Then Fender ended up opening Fender Mexico, and Martin uses Mexico. Gibson, I think, uses Korea for their Epiphone line. And now they're starting to put out really, really good stuff. And part of it is this. One more slug from this wonderful mug. Here's the biggest thing. Is a lot of these importers now have good access to good woods. They've learned that, tone woods do make a difference, and, just, put together press wood and everything else, just doesn't cut it, Now, I mean, if you're, an average Joe or dork ball player that, you don't play out of a good amp and, whatever, and you're just doing it for fun, by all means, the $150, $200 pawn shop guitar is great. But if you're serious about your craft, it's important to have quality instruments. However, like I said, some of the overseas stuff is starting to creep up because they're using better woods. They're better using better electronics. Primarily like Fender Epiphone. I mean, Fender Mexico, man, they're starting to use CTS pots and better potentiometers and better capacitors and you start seeing that kind of stuff happening, because what it is most players, especially people who love to mod, will buy like a Mexican Telly or even a Squier, and then mod the crap out of it, rip out all the electronics, redo the neck, put in new fret wire, And if you're one of the modsters and you like doing that kind of thing, which I was at one time, then I would definitely say, yeah, buy Squier or buy Epiphone or buy made in Mexico, because the reality is you don't want to pay $2,000-$3,000 for an instrument to do all this crap to it. You kind of want the $2,000 or $3,000 instrument to play killer, and play good on its own. Which brings me to another point. Average price for a standard Les Paul nowadays is $2,800. It's gone up. I think even reaching over $3,000. And we're just talking a standard. We're not, because the Les Paul line has varied over the years, but it kind of stays in the same way. They change names up and everything else. But, you got the Les Paul Special, then you got the Les Paul Studio, which they're just both bare bones. All those studios are getting nicer, but some of the stuff's left off, like binding and all this other things. But, the things that make it really pretty. And then you move into better lines or whatever, and then you get into the classic, and then you get into standard, and then custom, and then there's custom shop. So here's the thing: if you pay, $2,000 plus for a guitar, that thing better play good out of the box. I mean, that thing should come set up. It should come. I mean, that's a lot of money to invest into a guitar to have it pull out of the box and go, what is this? It's not playable, blah, 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 blah. And what it is companies are just getting cheaper. And they don't want to invest the time into finishing off the guitar. Now, they use the excuse that, not every guitar player has the same idea of a setup, and some people like it this way and some people... Fine, but at least make the guitar playable. I had a buddy of mine who, his dad bought him for I think it was his 40th birthday, but bought him what he always wanted, a custom Les Paul, brand new. Not a custom shop, but just, the Les Paul custom with the binding that goes all around the headstock, the split diamond inlay, everything gold and gold hardware, and it was beautiful. It was wine red and everything. And he actually waited for me to come over to his house. I was at work, and I went over to his house, and we unboxed it together and pulled it out, and he tuned it up. And first of all, the setup was miserable. It wasn't even set up. It was like it was just strung together. And this was sealed, man, direct from Gibson. This did not go through the channels and all this other stuff. It was sealed. And it sounded crappy. It was buzzing. It had all this, I mean, not just fret buzz, but, the pickups were humming horrible. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't want to say anything to him because it was $5,000, and I'm trying to be encouraging. And then finally he just said, this is crap. And he goes, I can't believe my dad spent $5,000 on this and blah, blah, blah. And he got really upset, and I played it, and I was just like, wow, this is miserable. And this is a company I've cherished and loved ever since I began first looking at the guitars, before I even became a player. I cherished and loved Gibson. And it was very disappointing. It was incredibly disappointing. But, that's where, and then what you can do, if you can't afford the higher end guitars, like Sir. My buddy Cody over at Guitar Center, he always shows me these Sirs. And I like Sir. I owned 2 Sirs at one time, years ago. And there's no question that Sir is a quality instrument, beyond compare. I mean, they really are a wonderful quality instrument. But, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's I know they're American made and all that other stuff. And the bottom line is they're running between $3,500 and $4,000. And now that's what you would pay for a Fender custom shop. So, and they play just as good, if not better, than most custom shops that I've played. And I've owned a custom shop, one from Fender, and it was beautiful and it was nice. But man, I had to get it all set up and get the frets done, and it's like, God, you pay this much money and to have to reinvest, because to go get a crown and level on a guitar, it costs money, So, it's going to run you $150, $200, and then to get a setup, an additional few bucks, So, I mean, you're looking right off the bat, I just paid $4,000 for a guitar, and then now I have to go get it set up. It's like, wow, man. I mean, at least let me play it. Now, the one thing, however, I will say about Gibson Custom Shop, those guitars, for the most part, every one that I've played, because whenever they get one at Guitar Center, Cody invites me over. I love playing them. Can't buy them, but I had to do all sorts of wheeling and dealing to get my 57 Gold Top custom shop. But, and Cody had to bend over backwards to make it happen for me. But those guitars, for the most part, come out of the box very playable. Perfect feeling, sounding wonderful. So it just depends. So if you're a tinker, if you're a modder, you like messing with stuff, I think the takeaway is this: whatever you do, and whatever you buy, whatever you get, have a good setup guy. Find a good setup guy for your guitars. If you're a luthier, and I do mean that, a luthier, not a guy who knows how to tinker with stuff, but a good luthier, then, you could get away with buying a Mexi or a Squire or an Epiphone and do all the modding and fret dressing and everything yourself. But if you don't really know what you're doing, find a good luthier to go to, a good setup guy, because those guys are worth their weight in gold. They'll make the guitar playable. So there was one time where I was very much, and I'll be honest with you, since I am a creature of habit, I still tell people, buy American. Number one, we live in this country. I believe in supporting our workers. as much as they gouge us. Because I mean, Gibson, Mesa. I mean, look at Mesa. You know, the Mark. Okay, that new Mark 7. You guys know how much I love Mesa. And that thing's expensive, dude. And I traded 2 guitars, or actually 1 guitar and an amplifier to get one. And this, I mean, it was brand new, sealed in the box, and the foot switch didn't work. And I sent it to Mesa, and 8 weeks later, they send it back, and it's the same switch, and it still doesn't work. I don't know what's happening to my beloved companies, but I'm ready to start looking for an upgrade, because that kind of stuff just cheeses me off. You know, the gouging, the price gouging, and it's like, okay, but make sure your stuff's good, you know, and back it up. And if you can't, then maybe it is time to hang up shop. I don't know. So that's my tidbit on it. If you love to mod, you love to tinker, and you have a great setup guy, I'll tell you, I've played some Made in Mexicos and some Squires even that have been fully done up, you know, Lawler pickups or bare knuckle pickups, and, you know, Fralin pickups, and a proper fret dress, sometimes refret, and everything. So they'll buy this guitar for $300-400, and then they put another $500 into it, $600 into it, but that guitar plays like a $2,000 guitar. So it is possible, as long as you can live with the Squire name on the headstock, and it doesn't bother you. More power to you. That's the way I look at it. So that's my talk on Gibson guitars. So as far as pedals, I mean, most of the good pedals come out of Japan. There's some good American companies too, though, like Walrus and Strymon, of course. You guys know I'm a Strymon fanboy. And there, like I said, there's a lot of good companies out there, but and amplifiers, you know, as much as I say, you know, try to stick with American, you know, whatever works for you. You know, I was being courted as a 12, 13-year-old guitar player by a lot of the local band scene in my day, and you know, I was playing a bunch of crap gear, you know, so, and yeah, it's all in what you do here too, you know. So just, if it works for you, it works for you, you know, but don't let anybody tell you what to do. Get off those stupid Gear Nuts and Gear Page and all that other stuff, because, you know, there's just a bunch of people, you know, you guys know the sayings about opinions, you know, they are like, yeah, so, and everybody's got one, and everybody has all their opinions of what's good and what's not, and this, and you should have. It's like, well, then give me the money if I should have, you know. That's the way I look at it, you know. Okay, so music production. Well, you know, I'll you know, one question, it says, you know, there's all these different plugins. What do you recommend? I recommend you go to the website and download the free trial, and see if that plug works for you. There's a lot of great plugins. There's a lot of gimmick plugins. I have fallen victim to many, because that's just the way it works, and it sucks. But, you know, plugs, you know, again, try them. You guys know I'm a UAD fanboy, love Universal Audio. I do love Sound Toys. Sound Toys is good stuff. I do love Slate. There's things about Slate that bug me, but they have their own sound, their own tone, and they're very usable, and they're cheap, man. Those subscription programs, $14 a month, you can't beat. And unless you got $2,000 to pay for everything up front, you know. Waves makes some cool, very usable plugins. So, you know, I mean, I think it's just a matter of preference and taste. As far as your DAW, you know, I'm a long time Pro Tools user. I was Cubase diehard. But when I went and managed a studio for a little while, I was forced to learn Pro Tools, and now I'm just used to it. Now I just like the workflow inside of Pro Tools. But I'm getting tired of paying the subscription. And I hear they are close to being sold again because they're looking to sell Avid. So I'm moving towards the free DAW called Luna from UA. Heard it's great. I'm such a creature of habit. I like to stick with what I know, but I need to take the time to learn Luna, and I hear it's fantastic. So we'll see how it works. But again, it's all a matter of you diving in and working on it. I mean, plugs versus hardware. It's your choice, man. If you got the money to spend on vintage hardware and good hardware, man, God bless you, do it. If I had an unlimited amount of money to play with, then I would probably have just the mix of plugs and the mix of hardware, because both have their advantages. The big advantage of a plug-in is they work and they're consistent, where hardware, could break down. So there's that. Production. How do you learn production? Well, it's just working on songs. Record and practice your mix, practice your craft, practice editing, practice doing effects and, routing things and trying different avenues. And it's really just getting in there and playing. I don't really consider myself, I do produce my own material. And I have mixed for a lot of people. I've offered my services for other people, and sometimes it's difficult, and I don't really care to do it, but if in a pinch, I'll do it. A part of it is because I know what I want and I know what I'm hearing for my own material, so that's why I just concentrate on that. But it's just a matter of taking time to craft, and do I need the most expensive stuff? Do I need to get an Apollo? No. There's great stuff out there you can buy that's cheaper and still get good sounds. The only thing that I really, really do suggest that you invest in is a good mic. And if you're miking guitars, a good old 57 will work, man. $100. Price hasn't changed on those in like 20 years, man. They're still $100, and you can find them used even cheaper. But mic up your guitar amp with that, and as long as you have a decent mic pre, Focusrite makes good stuff that's cheap. Presonus makes good stuff that's cheap. You don't have to go RME or UA or any of these other ones that are being offered. They're great stuff, but it's like, and yeah, I can hear sonically the difference, but if you're new to this, you're not going to hear the difference. You're not going to hear a giant difference. Not until you want to make sure that you're ready and that you're digging in, and getting into your craft. And if such is the case, then cool. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up today. And hopefully I'll get to some more questions, but those were like real big questions that were happening. So it's good to see you all. Hope everybody's doing good, and we'll see you at the Metal Fest out in Ohio, Immortal Fest. Deliverance will be performing. So for more information, check it out on their group on Facebook. Otherwise, we'll see you there. I look excited about doing it. Come visit me at www.jpbii.com. And if you feel so inclined to continue to support me doing music with the novella series and everything else that's coming up, please stop and consider joining my Patreon at www.patreon.com/JPBII. You have yourself a great day. You have yourself a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. And peace out.